Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in our third webcast. I am Avni Bhatnagar, leading the Tankers Research Desk at Segal Seatrade, a leading shipping consultant in India, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all. I will be your presenter for today's discussion on the topic LPG Trade Global India Outlook. We also have with us two prominent members of Segal Seatrade, Mr. Vijay Handa, President Shipping, and Captain Sushmit Biswas, CEO Tankers, for an expert Q&A session after this presentation. Let's start by talking about worldwide LPG trade flows. China is the world's largest LPG importer, accounting for a share of 18%, followed by India, having a share of 15% in the worldwide seaborne LPG imports, whereas US is the world's largest LPG exporter, accounting for a 42% share, followed by UAE and Qatar, having a 10% share each in the worldwide seaborne LPG exports. Emerging economies potential. LPG consumption is rising at a very fast pace in the emerging economies like China, India, and Africa, as it is a cleaner substitute to burning firewood or kerosene for cooking purposes. The demand is also rapidly rising due to increased LPG usage in petrochemical production and strong initiatives for auto gas penetration. Now we'll shift our focus to the two major importers, China and India. Chinese imports of US LPG peaked in May following the deal, but since then has been on a continuous decline as tensions between the two countries have escalated. Increased demand in China can be attributed to the petrochemical sector, where LPG is used as feedstock for the PDH units. Few such units are planned to come into operation by the end of this year. India's overall July imports have risen by approximately 16% from that of July last year, with more than double increase in US imports and a decline of one-third volume from Saudi Arabia. Indian LPG demand and supply. India consumed 26.3 million metric ton of LPG in financial year 2019-20, of which around 56% requirement is met by imports. The LPG consumption is expected to increase by 5% in the year 2020-21 and around 7% in the year 2021-22 from the 2019 level. Around 87% of the demand arises from residential sector using LPG as cooking fuel. Another 10% comes from the industrial or commercial sector, 1% from transport sector, and 2% from others. Due to multiple lockdowns, the household consumption increased by about 22% in April-May 2020 as compared to the same period last year due to Indian government distributing free cylinders to the poor. However, consumption from industrial or commercial sector declined 68%, while transport sector witnessed an 80% reduction. Indian LPG import trend. Middle East is the largest exporter to India, holding about 92% share in the total Indian imports, of which Qatar has the highest share of 34%, followed by Saudi Arabia and UAE. The United States accounts for a 6% share, usually loading from the US Gulf region. The remaining requirement is met by imports on ad hoc basis from the Mediterranean regions and Russia. LPG pricing. The international benchmark for the cost of Indian LPG is the Saudi Aramco contract price. Both propane and naphtha are used as petrochemical feedstocks, but producers typically find it viable to crack LPG when its cost is at least 90% that of naphtha. On the right-hand side graph, the blue line shows the seasonality of the Far Eastern price differential between naphtha and LPG, for which data has been taken from 2014. The rise in differential during the April to August period can be explained by the increased demand of LPG as feedstock from the east during the summer months. The orange line shows that the general seasonality is not being followed in 2020. After March, naphtha prices have fallen along with the prices, making it more economical for petrochemical producers to crack naphtha rather than LPG. However, strong demand growth from PDH units in the second half of 2020 has already pulled the curve upwards in favor of LPG. LPG shipping, worldwide fleet and order book. The fleet size of NGC in 2020 is in parity with fleet size of NGC in 2019 because of fewer deliveries in 2020. Also, the average age of VLGC is about 10 years. LPG shipping, India. Due to limited tonnage, foreign flagged vessels cover a majority of cargo on the vessels time chartered by Indian PSUs. The share for VLGC is around 52%, while that of NGC is around 56%. On spot, almost all cargoes are covered on foreign flagged vessels. The spot inquiries for VLGC are expected to rise in the second half of 2020, although spot MGC inquiries are highly likely as around 10 MGC vessels are on time charter with Indian PSUs. The worldwide average VLGC TC rate for 2020 till date is around $34,750 per day, while that of India is a little higher at around $37,756 per day. Also, the average round voyage duration on time chartered VLGC vessels from January to June 20 is about 40 days in India. Investments and policy push. On the west coast of India, IOCL is aiming to ramp up the capacity at its Kandla LPG import terminal from 0.6 MMTPA to 2.5 MMTPA for an investment of about $78 million. The capacity is being increased to feed LPG into the proposed Kandla-Gorakhpur LPG pipeline, which is billed as the longest LPG pipeline in the world, being laid down jointly by IOCL, BPCL and HPCL at an estimated cost of $1.33 billion. On the east coast, investment for IOC's upcoming Paradeep LPG terminal is approximately around $92 million, which will have a capacity of 2 MMTPA. The government has adopted strong policies and initiatives like the Direct Benefit Transfer Scheme, PEHEL, and Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, as a result of which the LPG penetration has drastically increased in India. LPG outlook. The LPG fleet contracts for the next 2 years are expected to remain weak, leading to fleet growth range of 2 to 4% 2021 to 2023. Limited availability of Indian tonnage and increasing import volumes provide a great opportunity for foreign owners to keep their tonnage busy on the India-centric trade. Also, the US-China trade tensions have put India in a favorable position as US exports seek an alternative buyer. That's all with the presentation. Thank you for your patience listening. Now let's move on to our Q&A round, where my colleague Vijit Sridharan will ask a few questions. Over to you, Vijit.
Thank you, Avni. Good afternoon, Handa sir and Sushmit sir. So as guided by Avni, we have framed up few questions for the Q&A session. Starting with Handa sir. Sir, with import rising, what potential do you see in the Indian LPG shipping?
LPG imports in India have risen steadily over last few years at about 10 to 12% per annum to current level of about 14.85 million metric ton for 2019-20. These imports are expected to be steady for next few years, around 15 to 16 million metric ton, as indigenous production is expected to rise due forthcoming refinery expansions to meet expecting increase in consumptions. However, over a longer term perspective of 10 to 20 years in future, LPG imports may touch around 25 million metric ton per annum around 2040, which means about 70% increase from now on. There is huge potential for Indian LPG shipping at present as well as in the distant future. Currently, there are about 14 VLGCs on TC with PSUs, out of which 7 are Indian flag and 7 foreign flag. Similarly, out of 10 MGCs on charter, 2 are Indian flag and 8 on foreign flag. For spot cargoes, there are on an average 58 nominations per year for VLGCs and 33 for MGCs, which means about 6 and 3 nominations per month for VLGCs and MGCs respectively. All spot cargoes are being covered by foreign flag vessels. These figures speak themselves about potential for Indian LPG shipping now at about 15 million metric ton imports. For long-term perspective, gradual increase in LPG imports from 15 million metric ton to 25 million metric ton, Indian owners can play with full visibility to attain 100% share of imports on Indian flag tonnages. In short, Indian LPG shipping can tap full potential since they have clear visibility on the imports requirement now and in future. There is a government support also, as well as there is no dearth of cargoes.
Noted, sir. So what are the factors that are driving the LPG market in India?
The most important factor is the planning and will of the government of India to provide cleaner fuel for households who are deprived of LPG avail and thus using coal, wood to meet their requirements. Easy avail of LPG to households with improved logistics arrangement and increase in number of bottling plants have resulted in deeper penetration of LPG for households. Subsidized LPG with subsidy going direct to user bank account has further increased use of LPG for households. Currently, it stands at about 87% for households. 10% of LPG is being used for commercial and industrial purpose, including industries like gas, steel, etc. 3% of LPG is being used in auto sector and others. It is felt that household sector shall remain main user view sectors as explained earlier by me, followed by commercial and industrial use to some extent in the near future. Use of LPG in auto sector may diminish in future, view substitutions being planned by Government of India like CNG and EVs, etc.
Understood. So what are the challenges and opportunities for foreign ship owners in India?
They are different for TC employments as well as for spot employment. In case of TC employment, foreign owners have to face ROFR, right of first refusal of Indian ship owners as per DGS guidelines. Charter period is always up to maximum 2 years as per DGS guidelines, which means it may be one year plus 1 year or 1 year or a multiple of 3 months, 3 months, 3 months like that, but up to the maximum 2 years. Normally there are 7 foreign flag ships which are deployed on that TCs. In case of sport vessels, sport requirements, again owners have to face ROFR like in case of TC. Then there is a excessive waiting at these ports ranging between 6 to 7 days per port on east coast of India and about 5 days per port on west coast of India. The demurrage payments are also paid with usual delays. Further, owners are not sure of when they will be getting free as well as the last disports, which creates problem while fixing next employment. In spite of above, almost all sport voyages are being covered by foreign flag vessels, except few cases where Indian flag vessel is available.
Well noted, sir. Can Indian government's thrust on developing the LNG market be considered as a threat to the sustainability of LPG market?
LNG has its own priorities set up for uses like feedstock by fertilizer producing companies, oil refineries, gas-based power plants, city gas distribution, then petrochemical producing companies, and other industrial units. LPG is primarily used for household, which I told earlier, 87%, then commercial and industrial 10%, and automotive 3%. There may be some substitution by LNG in case of household, as piped gas in metropolis is being introduced, which may take care of some chunk of LPG. But the main uses of LPG is for rural and small towns, and these are constituting about 70% of the population. So thus do not believe that there would be any significant threat by LNG thrust on LPG users. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you for your valuable insight, sir. That's it from me. Over to you, Avni.
Thank you, Handa sir and Vijay. Now I would like to ask a few more questions on LPG pricing from Captain Sushmit. Hello, sir.
Hi, Avni.
So could you tell us what is the mechanism of LPG pricing in India and how does arbitrage come into play in LPG?
Thanks, Avni. I'll try and answer the question in two parts, so kindly bear with me.
Sure, sir.
India's primary import LPG is under term contract. The LPG pricing is based on the Saudi LPG contract price, which is the FOB price. As you know, India is a big consumer of domestic LPG, unlike other Asian countries where propane is majorly used by the petrochemical industry. Therefore, India's import price basis for calculation is in the ratio of 60% propane and 40% butane. The import price is based on the previous month's price. For example, the August price will be basis the declared July Saudi contract price. The other Middle Eastern suppliers also base their price on the Saudi CP. For the spot purchase, its basis against the Saudi CP. To that, the market-driven negotiated premium or discount applies. The end consumer in India, of course, pays much more. That is calculated basis the import parity price. That is basically the Saudi CP price plus the freight, insurance, etc., and all the costs and margins of oil companies. Your second question about the arbitrage in LPG pricing. Due to the demand from Asian economies, primarily for the propane as against naphtha, propane is produced, as you know, the propane is produced from shale gas. Other productions is there, but from shale gas, why I mentioned is the major producer is US now, and which is used in the steam cracker units for production of olefins. And also due to the interchangeable nature of naphtha versus propane, these factors always lead to demand fluctuations. These demand fluctuations are short-lived, which in turn allows for short-term arbitrage opportunities. We feel going forward though, typically the seasonal demand growth is in summer from April to August, when the prices are relatively higher, but it is expected with the growth in the US LPG production, the seasonal aspect will diminish with time.
Thank you for enlightening us, sir. Concluding our Q&A round, I would like to know, how is US growth in production helping India to diversify its LPG imports?
Here I will like to go a little bit into the growth of LPG production in the US. The last 10 years, there was a sharp increase in US exports. The seaborne volumes grew from 5% to 37%. During the same period, Middle Eastern seaborne exports declined, which used to be 53% to now 34%. So the export is nearly neck to neck now. Since 2014, US LPG exports has seen a double-digit growth each year. Over the years, India's major imports are from Middle Eastern countries like the Saudi, Kuwait, Qatar, and Oman. So going forward, India will continue to import from the Middle Eastern countries because of the obvious clear advantage it has. From US, on the other hand, the imports into India have grown significantly. It used to be zero in 2015. It has gone up to 110,000 barrels per day and in end of 2019. The present US-China trade war has caused Chinese importers to secure alternative supply from Middle East. Chinese have gone ahead and signed term contracts with the Middle Eastern suppliers. Now OPEC cuts and other geopolitical dynamics has resulted, for instance, in the Saudi production cuts in LPG. Also, there is a local demand in Saudi because of their own refineries and petrochemical plants, which makes the LPG bit stretched at their end. Consequently, United States largest importer, which is China, used to be China, is their volumes is available for swapping, which were usually used to found in the past whenever such events used to happen, like in 2018. This used to make inroads into the Asian countries like the Korea and Japan. The demand in Asia being already saturated now, India becomes the obvious choice. US clearly will become the source of India in long term as demand for LPG continues to grow in India. Thank you, Avni.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And thank you all for joining us. We look forward to meeting you in our next webcast too. Till then, take care and stay safe.